All right, well, I think it's time to kick it off. So welcome to the Senior Living Guided Strategy session. Over the course of the next hour, we'll provide you with a value-packed session that's going to be delivered by experts from the senior living, the healthcare, and technology spaces. The objective of today's session is to review really why technology and people supporting your organizations are paramount to your success and continued growth. At Salesforce.org, we're the nonprofit powerhouse here at Salesforce. So we always begin with a thank you to everyone on today's call, as well as those that are watching on demand, because nonprofits like yourself create significant impact to our communities, and we really appreciate your time today. So here are your guides for today's session. My name is Ross Regan. I am the account executive for Salesforce.org in the state of Washington, and I'll pass it over to Steve, and we can go down to the right for introductions.
Thanks, Ross. My name is Steve Anthony. I'm also an account executive here at Salesforce.org, and I support organizations across the Southwest in Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. Royce?
Hey, I'm Royce Hall. I'm with CRM Science. I'm a Salesforce consultant. We do a lot of work in the nonprofit space and in the senior living space. So great to be here today. Thank you for inviting me to talk with you about work that we've done and how Salesforce is influencing the senior living nonprofit space. Dan?
Thanks, Royce. Dan Tybel here. So I'm a lead solutions engineer here at Salesforce.org. And I specialize in community care organizations, including senior living organizations who are nonprofits. Deanne?
Hi, I'm Deanne Geisler, and I'm the Director of CRM for Transforming Age, which is both a senior housing and affordable housing firm here in the Midwest, and throughout the United States, we have communities. So I will turn this back over to Ross.
Thanks, everyone. So for today's agenda, we'll cover why should you even make a change from what you're currently doing as a senior living organization, whether you're a facility, an operator, at-home care service, or even a hospice center. We'll hear from Royce regarding how one of the largest senior living organizations transformed their business with Salesforce, and as well as recommendations that he has for tackling common use cases. Dan will then provide an illustration of what a day in the life looks like for a senior living professional and for residents, and followed by a short interview with our industry expert, Deanne, who has set up Salesforce for some of the most innovative senior living organizations in the country, so we can learn more about her experience and what you can expect as well. So we'll start off today's session with a quote from an industry leader, Joel Nelson, who is the president and CEO of Life Care Services, and they are a premier and one of the largest senior living organizations in the country. And he mentions in an article online that our industry will remain people-centric and will require upping our game to attract the best talent. We are integrating technologies and digital tools for our communities and residents to improve the services we provide without losing or sacrificing the human touch. So for today's webinar, we're basically going to be focusing on those two factors, which are going to be the human component, which is your staff, your colleagues, and your residents as well, and your clients. So using technology as sort of that relationship driver and that beautiful bridge between those two people-centric topics there. So for today's webinar, really the reason why we developed the strategy session was to address the most common challenges that organizations like yourself are experiencing. At a high level, with inflationary pressures across the world, materials, food, interest rates, and really labor costs are all increasing at this unprecedented rate that we haven't seen in a while. So for seniors, their Social Security cost of living stipend increased by 8.7%, which is a massive jump and illustrative of those increasing costs that you're experiencing really to operate businesses in the senior living space. Margins begin to squeeze, and offering your clients that highest quality of care, innovation, and ultimately their experience at your facilities and organizations, they're at risk. Additionally, your people and staff, as we spoke about just a moment ago, are number one. They're the most important asset that your organization has, as the care and empathy that your residents experience are a direct result from those staff members. 80% of senior living staff feel that there's a really high and critical level of burnout. This is truly unacceptable, and the inefficiencies can absolutely be addressed immediately with technology. Maybe not all of them, but a good majority of them can be addressed. The challenge ahead of us is not only attracting the best talent with those cross-functional and flexible technologies and softwares that you can be using, but also retaining those employees by enabling them to be more productive so that they can focus on the resident instead of manual labor and swiveling back and forth to different softwares and maybe even paper and pen. Lastly, the silver wave, as it's referred to, is really becoming apparent, with about 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. While more demand is clearly fantastic, your organization will require more enterprise-grade investments, like strategically looking into how technology can directly assist you in managing demand, growth, and also offering those really innovative solutions for your clients and residents. Salesforce is a Fortune 200 company. We're headquartered in San Francisco. What's special about the team here today is that we're a part of the nonprofit organization at Salesforce, and we help power over 60,000 nonprofits globally, and have also provided over $500 million in grants to organizations, and that's billions with a B. Salesforce Technology is the #1 market leader of an open enterprise-grade platform that meets all your business's needs across various departments, from resident relationship management to marketing and sales automation, providing that custom self-service portals to your residents, all the way to granting your leadership with a very clear view of your organization's impact and performance. This all sits on a cloud-based mobile platform that's accessible anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And lastly, if you take anything away from today's presentation, the one important thing to remember is our organization is more committed than ever to nonprofits like you all on the call today. We provide technology grants worth upwards of $21,000 to each and every 501c3.
Now let's talk about the value that Salesforce provides to senior living organizations. With Salesforce at the helm, we are seeing nonprofits yield objective returns on their investment across multiple business units. And for the nonprofit sector, senior living space specifically, we're seeing incredible value being driven through 3 primary business objectives. The first is enhancing the experience of residents, which is really the heart of the mission. Salesforce helps organizations develop a 360 integrated view of each resident, which we've seen lead to an increase in a variety of performance metrics, such as increased quality of life and decreased avoidable health issues. 2 is developing systems that enable scalable and predictable revenue generation. Salesforce helps organizations deliver personalized communication, automated lead engagement, and systematic feedback loops, all of which supercharge the qualification process and rates of acquisition. And the third is addressing risks and ultimately reducing the cost per resident. Salesforce helps organizations revolutionize their intake process and create opportunities for self-service, leading to increases in margins, every CEO's favorite, and a better and more productive experience for staff, which we know decreases turnover, something that the field is grappling with today. But all of the metrics that you're seeing here on the right side of this chart really demonstrate what it means to be a data-driven organization and how that leads to faster growth and greater impact. But this is just a high-level review of the measurable value that Salesforce provides to senior living organizations. But to illustrate this even further, we're going to hear from Royce and our partners at CRM Science, who implemented these very pieces of impact with the ACTS retirement life communities. Royce?
Thank you, Steve. So this is kind of our introductory slide. There's a lot of information here, right? But I'm not going to go over every bit of this. I'm sure you're breathing a sigh of relief right now for that. But a couple of things I just want to point out here. Up in the upper left-hand corner, CRM Science, we are a summit partner with Salesforce, which means that we're in the top 3% of Salesforce consultants in the ecosystem. And I bring that up because a lot of work that we've done has been around nonprofits and senior living, and we can't really reach that status without the support of our clients. And if you look at kind of more towards the center under recognition, we actually won the 2019 Community Cloud Partner Innovation Award with work that we've done with ACTS Senior Living Facilities. So just a couple of things to point out there, just to point out, we are working on nonprofits, on health, life sciences, on your senior living, and that's the only way that we've gotten to where we are today. So what I want to do with the next few minutes is just kind of think through what it looks like to kind of crawl, walk, and then run with Salesforce. And we're going to kind of do that through the vehicle of what's happened with ACTS. So Ross, if you want to go to the next slide. Again, we're going to start with crawl. So what are kind of the most basic use cases? So if we look at ACTS is a huge organization. I imagine that a lot of the people that are on this call right now are not working in organizations that are quite as big. The good news is the Salesforce platform is scalable. It can handle a very small use case, but it can also handle very large use cases with similar benefits. So if we look at ACTS's use case, we have over 8,000 employees. We have over 11,000 residents in multiple states. And during COVID, we actually helped build an application to track COVID as people were entering into senior living facilities. How do you make sure that they're not bringing in COVID with them? So we screened over 1 million people, and we were able to increase online onboarding by 48%. That's all to say, these 8,000 employees, they're dealing with a ton of information. They're dealing with a ton of data. So this is often where our conversations start with senior living facilities is what is the most basic need here? And Steve, you and Ross pointed out, we're having a lot of issues with burnout, especially during COVID. Like, oh my gosh, there's just such an overwhelming amount of stress and work and just data handling. So how do we make that easier? Well, we can do that with utilizing online experiences. How do we let people, fill out forms online rather than paper? How do we make it easier to collect that data? How do we take that data and automatically manage it so that we don't have, one person doing the same task over and over and over and over again in a day or in a week? And how, from the client resident standpoint, how do I see where I am in my mission process or my onboarding process? How do I have that transparency? Well, Salesforce is giving us the ability to build out web portals where people can go in and see, okay, here's where I am in the stage. And from an operational standpoint, we can see where the bottlenecks are and see where we can leverage automation to make our processes easier. And then the net result of this is, that helps with retention, right? I know that I've talked to people in the medical industry, and it's like, oh my gosh, I care for my clients and my patients all day. And then I have a stack of paperwork to do in the evening. Like, I'm not even getting paid for that, but it has to get done, right? Well, that's what leads to burnout, and that's what leads to our turnover. So by leveraging Salesforce technologies, we're able to take that load of information coming from 11,000 residents and 1 million screens and make that a much simpler process. Hand in hand with that is your data handling. So, all that information is going into your EHR, but often we end up with data silos. I got information in my EHR, but it's not talking to my CRM. It's not talking to the people that are engaging with our clients and with our prospects over on the other side. So how do we bring those things together? Oftentimes you'll have multiple in-house apps. Maybe if you have a robust team, you've built your own in-house applications, or you're storing your own databases. The question is, how do we make the data seamlessly unified and surfaced in Salesforce? So again, we don't have to manage data in multiple places. That's where a lot of people start with Salesforce, are those questions. How do I make my job easier? And then how do I get all of my data in one place? So once we've got the crawl done, we're ready to walk. What could this look like? So the next step that we often see is, well, let's talk about how we manage people as they go through the process with us. So as you know, when you are talking about somebody moving into your senior living facility, that can be a very long cycle, right? That's not something that you just go down to the grocery store and pick up an apple. It's not like that, right? It can be a very long process, often multiple years. So the question that Axe was asking was, how do we stay in contact with our prospects through a multi-year buying cycle? That can be very difficult, right? And if you think about it, you think about who you're talking to. You're not just talking to the prospective resident, right? You're talking to their family members. Maybe it's a son or a daughter that is wanting to find the right place for their parents. Well, now we have multiple targets in that buying cycle. We also have multiple personas. What does the resident want out of the experience? What does the child want out of the experience? What are each person's individual emphases and desires? So we have to think about, it's a very complex buying cycle. So how do we give each one of those people what they want to hear at the right time to keep them engaged over this multi-year buying cycle? So that's where we can bring in things like Marketing Cloud to say, okay, I've got 10 different tracks of talk tracks that we're working through to keep each person engaged at exactly the right time and give them what they want. The daughter or son might not necessarily care about all of the creature features of the room. They want to know that mom or dad is going to have lots of opportunities for exercise and community. Okay, we got to feed them talk tracks there versus what we feed to the prospective resident. On the flip side of that, I've talked to senior living facilities as well about how do we engage providers, right? How do we engage people who would be the person giving care? Maybe it's in-house care. So how do we keep those people engaged, keep them knowing our brand, and boost the recruiting? How do we keep them interested in working with us? And then for our residents, if they need a service, how do we refer those out? How do we manage our partners? How do we manage those referrals and keep everybody engaged? So what we've done with Axe is we have leaned on Marketing Cloud, and what we've seen is a 12% increase in move-ins and a 470% increase in online resident engagement. That's huge. We're giving people a new way to interact with one another and with their loved ones, and we've seen great benefit of that. So that's what it might look like. There's multiple paths, but that's one way it might look like to walk with Salesforce. And then the run, I think of this, one of the big things that we've talked about with Axe is really flipping the script from how do I age in place, where can I go when I'm elderly, and change the conversation to be around hospitality, right? That's really what we're selling to prospective residents, hospitality. They want to go to a place and children want to go to a place where they know that their loved one is going to be cared for. You can feel the care, and that that happens in person, right? Training the staff to act first in a hospitality first mindset. But we do that with digital engagements as well. So giving them a digital community. This is a place where residents can go and communicate with one another, fellowship with one another, have access to one another, instead of just being segregated from everybody else. This can also look like notifications. How do I keep our residents up to date on the goings on at our facilities? So are there upcoming events? Are there exercise classes? Are there movies? Are there outings? How do we make sure that people are aware of what is going on so that they can have a higher level of experience? And that's really important, right? That again, that is what as care providers, that's how we care for people, and also that's what we communicate through that marketing that we saw in the kind of walk step. Is we are trying to communicate. You are going to get a higher level of care. You're going to get a higher level of service, and that's what's going to keep people coming to you for care. And this is what's going to keep your residents with you long term. And part of that as well is managing the family relationship. So how do we keep the children, the loved ones, up to date on what the resident is doing? What events are they going to? What are they participating in? How engaged are they? That's how we are measuring satisfaction, and that's how we can start to think about. Is this person going to be staying with us long term? Are they going to be looking elsewhere? Are they satisfied? What can we do better? Servicing all those things to the family as well. And then the other part of that is patient support. So we've gone really far with ACTS on this. Again, not expecting everybody to have the exact same situation, but we've gone as far to make digital communities using Experience Cloud with Salesforce. So we've built these communities for our residents so that they can do things like request service. Hey, I've got a light bulb that is burnt out. I don't have to go track somebody down. I don't have to go change it myself. I can just put in a simple request and it'll get fixed for me. And maybe we go further down the line and figure out how to, work with Alexa enabled devices to say, hey, Alexa, I need a light bulb. Or, maybe we put in IoT where the light bulb tells the service department, hey, I'm out. You need to change me. But, it all starts with that digital footprint, right? Of how do we get that data from the patient's room to our service facility? And we've done that through the use of Experience Clouds. This can also look like giving digital resources. How do we give them articles to if they're recovering from an injury? Okay, what are articles that I can look about how I need to exercise or care for myself? If they have questions, can we go to a bot and get questions answered online, or go to a service resource online, or even surface some of those articles? I can see that you are looking for information around X, and maybe this is the next generation is GPT, right? Where GPT is servicing those things. But how can we find our answers online? And then also with X in particular, we've built out a platform for tracking fee-based services. So when they pay for something, they can see what their balances are online. They can see how much is owed, what they've bought. And again, across our 11,000 plus residents, we've seen our growth in digital requests for fee-based services multiply. Sorry, had a hard time saying that. Multiply by 3x. And when we look at the community engagement, we've been able to book more than 1 million activities through our community cloud annually. And when we look at our providing food, so people are able to go online and request food or make arrangements at the cafeteria. We've had more than 5 million meals provided through the help of Community Cloud. So we've really seen a change in the way that people are engaging with us. Our service is much closer to them now. You know, it's at the touch of a button. Our hospitality is easier to access. And that just makes the experience of our residents that much better. It makes them that much more satisfied with what is going on. And that's what it's all about, right? Is making sure that they have a good experience and that they're well cared for. So that's just a quick look at how we've kind of crawl, walk, run with Axe and Salesforce.
Great. So I'm going to take over from here. And thank you very much, Royce, for providing that background on how Axe has used Salesforce, the platform, and the crawl, walk, run experience. Using that kind of acronym here, the idea of crawl, walk, and run. What I'm going to show you today is going to be more like a 5K. I'm not going to take you through the full marathon today of what everything you could do in the Salesforce platform is possible, but I just want to give you an idea of what it could look like in terms of a resident and a staff experience from using Salesforce. So today I'm going to walk you through the journey of a prospective senior living resident and his family as they engage with a fictitious operator called Makana Aged Care. So we're going to follow along as Charles and his family learn about the facilities and services Makana provides, go through the resident placement process, and up to the point and through when Charles starts receiving care from Makana. And we're going to experience this both through the lens of Charles and his family, but also the internal Makana staff team and how they would use Salesforce to provide a great resident experience. And we'll also see how the Makana executive team can use the pre-built analytics to measure the KPIs that matter to them. So a lot of ground to cover today. Hold on to your horses. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's start off by meeting Charles. So Charles is our potential resident. He's a sociable 80-year-old who lives alone after his wife, Betty, recently passed. Now, he used to be really active and engaged in social activities in his spare time, but since Betty passed, his family's really noticed a decline in his dementia, and he's struggling in general to keep up with himself and his home. Now let's meet Kate. So Kate is Charles's oldest daughter. And like most moms, she's got a really hectic life, juggling school drop-offs, working, checking in with her dad in her spare time when she can. She's become increasingly worried about her dad's ability to look after himself and his house. And she received a call, unfortunately, recently, just letting her know that he got lost. So she decides it's time to get some help for Charles. And she starts where a lot of people will, by doing a Google search. So she, of course, wants her dad to live safely and happily. So she decides to start researching elderly care home options. She begins by doing some light searching on the internet, but she gets distracted. Later, when she's browsing the online newspaper, she starts to notice ads for Makana Aged Care. Looks familiar, but right now she's a little bit too busy to check it out. A few days later, she's on the Facebook. And while she's scrolling along, she sees an intelligently targeted ad for Makana, and she decides to click through. She arrives on a landing page where she can sign up for a webinar, and she's also going to receive a series of personalized emails and information packs by providing Makana with her information. And what's going to happen in the background is based on how she interacts with the content she sees on the Makana site, they're going to be able to personalize what comes next for her and Charles as they search for the most suitable home for Charles's long-term care. So Kate and her dad attend the webinar and they decide residential care is likely the best option for Charles. Kate appreciates the relevant, timely follow-up communications she's receiving from Makana, which educate her and the family on all the options available and the services provided by Makana. She decides it's time to call and find out more. Now let's meet Seth. Seth is the hospitality manager at the Riverview Care Center that Makana operates. He is responsible for incoming calls and guiding residents through the available services and ensuring they get the best value and highest quality care for their needs and their loved ones. He's passionate about maximizing the occupancy levels in Makana, while also providing a great experience for residents and their families. So Seth has a complete snapshot of his workload on a single pane of glass, because Salesforce is able to surface all of his leads and resident engagements in one place. Now, this is going to make it really easy for Seth to know exactly what to focus on throughout the day and make sure nothing slips through the cracks. And on one of his dashboards that show his prioritized leads, he sees that Charles is actually a top priority lead for him. Now, when Kate calls, Seth is immediately presented with a 360-degree view of Kate and Charles's interaction history and their lead status. So he has everything he needs at his fingertips right when she dials the number. A guided workflow is going to help Seth quickly record the initial details he needs about Charles, his needs, and his preferences. Now, when Kate asks about the Riverview Care Community, Seth has all the information at hand about the facility, including real-time occupancy metrics. He notes there are 4 beds available and talks Kate through the features and the facilities and the services that it offers. Kate's really excited to hear about the occupancies, but she wants to get an idea of cost. So Seth is now prompted to follow a guided process to gather the necessary information to provide her with a quote. Now, based on the initial needs assessment, Seth is presented with a recommendation of the appropriate service bundle and automatically generates a tailored quote for Kate, broken down by the funding type. Seth then follows the guided process to book Kate and Charles for a facility tour with Melinda, the Riverview home manager. This ensures that Kate and Charles will meet with the right person with the right skills and who is available at the right time to greet the family. So let's meet Melinda. She's the care coordinator at the Riverside facility for Makana. She works closely with residents and families to assess their needs, set goals, and ensure the most appropriate services are delivered in accordance with the funding. She's responsible for performing assessments and manages a number of support workers as well. Now, Charles' visit is automatically assigned to Melinda. She receives an auto-generated task on her daily dashboard, letting her know that she has a new prospective resident assigned to her and that an assessment has been booked as well. She quickly opens up his record to view all the available details about Charles. She's able to get up to speed very quickly with Charles's situation, with a full history of all the interactions that have taken place so far, the detailed information gathered by Seth, and a full picture of Charles's motivations and background. Now, at the visit, Charles loves the Riverview Care Community and the warm welcome from the staff. Melinda clearly explains the application process, finances, services available, and all the documentation required. The handy document checklist is going to make sure that Melinda doesn't miss anything. And while Charles's room isn't quite available yet in terms of what he would prefer, Melinda is able to add him to the wait list. And Melinda can easily manage everyone on her wait list with visibility into the status and automated reminders based on milestones. As soon as a space becomes available for Charles, they start the intake process. Charles is thrilled when his room becomes available, and the staff provide a warm, friendly welcome. And Kate is so pleased to see his room is set up exactly as they requested. Okay, now that Charles is in the care of Makana, to provide the best care, Melinda has the 360-degree view of Charles that combines both clinical records and non-clinical data. She can view his medication history in a timeline format in order to coordinate his care appropriately. and she can manage his care coordination from one single place. Melinda's guided through a step-by-step process to gather all the information she needs about Charles's health and his social situation in order to create a tailored care plan to meet his needs. Now, based on the assessment results, Melinda creates a tailored care plan to help Charles live comfortably. Automated notifications will go out to anyone who has upcoming tasks, including Charles and his family members as well. Now, Melinda can keep track of Charles's progress over time across both social, physical, and clinical areas to ensure he's receiving the very best care from the staff at Makana. And she can also easily keep track of all the members of Charles's household and support network, both internal and external, and easily collaborate with them by sending tasks and messages at the click of a button. Kate loves that she can stay engaged with her dad's care, even though she can't visit every day. And she does this from the family engagement portal, where she can stay up to date with everything that's happening, which helps Makana drive trust, transparency, and really encourage and foster family engagement for their residents. Kate can keep track of all his appointments and activities and easily check on billing and payment details through the handy chatbot. This provides Kate with the flexibility to add or remove services for Charles without any fuss. She loves the easy access to monthly statements and helpful guidance on understanding the bill structures through knowledge articles. In terms of voice of the resident and their family, Charles and his family receive automated surveys asking for feedback at key moments during his care. So Makana is always going to be able to know how well they're serving the resident and the family needs and measure satisfaction with their service. Now, back at the office, the executives of Makana, including the HR and marketing team, they have everything they need to keep track of how the business is doing, from performance of service lines by funding to analysis of which region and actual specific facilities are performing best. Armed with these insights, the team is enabled to make quick strategic decisions to improve the business. They also have access to an employee feedback dashboard. So really maintaining that employee satisfaction is important to Makana. And they're able to measure this and see results automatically by updating the employee engagement dashboard. So the HR team can monitor this to ensure they are delivering the great experience for their staff and to ensure that they retain the best talent. And they can track resident and family feedback, of course, at every point during the journey. And understanding the feedback trends really helps them identify areas that need improvement and ensures that the team constantly strives to improve the resident experience. So we just covered a lot of ground and not a whole lot of time there. So let's recap what we just saw. First, we saw how Salesforce is able to support the discovery process Charles and his family needed to learn about Makana's facilities and services, while keeping them constantly engaged and staying top of mind with them. Then we saw how Salesforce could support the resident placement process, making sure everyone involved had the information they need and nothing slipped through the cracks. Next, we saw how Salesforce could provide Charles with a positive resident experience by giving the Makana team the tools they need to provide him with the highest level of care. And finally, we saw how the executive team at Makana could get the insights they need to ensure the business is successful and both residents, employees, and family members are happy. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the presentation. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Ross to introduce our very special guest.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was a fantastic overview of the power of Salesforce and how we can make tremendous impact at senior living organizations. And I have the pleasure and privilege of introducing Deanne, and we'll have a little bit of a Q&A interview type style to learn more about her experiences. Go ahead and share my screen here. So Deanne, I will pass it briefly over to you.
Hi, so I'm Deanne Geisler, and I work for the past 1.5 years. I've been working for Transforming Age, which is a national nonprofit organization serving older adults and in senior housing and in affordable housing. We've been in the business for over 60 years, and I've listed the states that we are located in. Our headquarters is actually in Seattle, Washington, but we do have a large presence in Minnesota and Nebraska and the other states. But one of our missions, our mission really is to create that integrated housing, community services, technology, philanthropy, and partnerships with all of our seniors. So there's some stats below that, and I'll just kind of let you look at that.
Thanks so much for the overview, Deanne. And I'm curious to know, tell us a little bit about your background and what ultimately led you to work in the senior living space.
Yeah, so I originally started my career 20 plus years, worked 20 plus years for a Fortune 500 financial company here in the Midwest. And in that role, I really worked in sales and marketing, and also started into the CRM application. At that time, implemented an application that at the very end of my career, I was implementing Salesforce. And then I moved over and worked 4 years at the third largest for-profit senior living industry company, also in the Midwest, and implemented Salesforce there. And then lastly, I just recently joined Transforming Age, where I'm really trying to work on, we've implemented Salesforce, but we were really working on trying to build and have an enterprise solution for both our senior housing and affordable housing units so that we can see the entire picture.
Thanks so much for that. I'm curious to know, with that said, and earlier on in the presentation, we talked about some of the main challenges and headwinds that senior living operators and facilities and organizations are experiencing. Why is it significant to address these challenges from a technology viewpoint, maybe more than other viewpoints?
Yeah, great question. So really, technology evolves quickly. We all know that our smartphones are outdated after we get a new smartphone, but technology is changing so much that it's really important, even more than ever, for senior living organizations to adapt to the new technology to increase their bottom line, because in the end, that bottom line is really going to help us provide excellent customer service to our seniors. So
Love it. And then why did you and the team at Transforming Age decide to invest in Salesforce?
So the biggest thing is I actually have 3 reasons: analytics, reports, and integrations. So I'm going to start first with the Salesforce integration platform is very flexible, and it allows us to connect to almost any other application. And that is really fantastic for us because it helps us, it saves time for our end users that they don't have to enter it in 2 different applications. Next, I would say is the Salesforce reporting functionality is really easy for both an administrator like myself, but then our end users to create their own custom reports. They can slice and dice that data however they want to, and even have it so it's automated. So the report will go out in an email to a group on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So again, another thing to improve those processes. Lastly is the rich analytics that Salesforce provides us. We're able to capture and slice and dice that data a lot. And it's helping our company understand where our prospects are located and to ensure we're spending our marketing dollars wisely. And for our affordable housing business to allow us to complete grant applications, which will again allow us to serve more of our seniors.
I love that. And thanks for differentiating the two there, because reports, right, is really like what data is even in existence and can you surface it in the first place? And then analytics is more so the why behind certain outcomes within that data. So really appreciate you covering that, Deanne. I'm curious to know, what were some of the challenges that you personally and your team ran into while trying to encourage that organizational wide adoption, and just maybe even thinking about that change in the first place? And how did you attempt to resolve those with other members on the Transforming Age team?
Yeah. So at every organization I've been at, change is hard for some people. They do not accept change. They don't like change. They'd like to do it, even though they may not like what they're doing. The tool itself, they just don't like change. So what I found to be really successful at all three of the companies I've worked for is to help those who don't like change. Is really, I strongly encourage you to meet with the most the group that or individual who is really not wanting to adapt to change, and sit down with them, have a meeting with them, and ask them everything that they don't like about the CRM, their current CRM, or their processes. Just have them just kind of get it off their chest and telling you everything that they don't like. Then turn around and say, hey, we are going to be moving forward with a new CRM. What would you like in that CRM? How would it benefit you? How can I make it more easier, user friendly for you? And by getting their feedback and ideas, they feel heard and that they're being included in the process, and they're really more willing to adapt to the new CRM.
It's really about that person and the staff member, and that they're providing the experience ultimately to the clients, and moving the mission and the business forward. So getting their 2 cents is super crucial. So thanks for that overview, Deanne.
Yeah.
Given the economy that we're in right now, many organizations on this call and watching really don't wish to spend any money, and money is very scarce right now. Why is it important than ever to invest right now in a technology like Salesforce?
So it's really important that people do make an investment in technology. And with that, by investing in Salesforce, you will return even richer data for you to gain better analytics of your prospects, and to create a better operating processes and procedures. By us using Salesforce, it helps us have our users spend time more wisely, because we've improved better processes for them. But also the fact of is that we're able to really understand who our lead sources are, and to know where we're spending our money wisely, our marketing dollars wisely.
Thanks for that. Return on marketing dollars is definitely paramount, especially as the economy becomes tighter. So really thinking strategically in that way, and having a technology platform that shows you makes a lot of sense. And then finally, Deanne, I'm curious to know, for the folks on the call here and those watching, what would you recommend senior living professionals do really to begin that understanding of how technology can directly benefit them in their role after they finish watching today?
Yeah, great question. I highly recommend to talk to your end users one by one, in group settings, by communities, however you want to do it. Have that conversation and get their feedback. But even better than that, I challenge you to go visit them in person. Shadow them for a day. You will follow them, see, and you will capture things that they don't see on how you can improve the process for them. You'll develop a much deeper understanding of how they are pulled in many directions, and still maintain their focus on providing excellent care to our seniors.
Thanks, Deanne. So as we conclude today's webinar, clearly we have some of the best experts here on the call in various spaces in the senior living facility and organizational space. We're happy to help you build your own value map, like the one you saw earlier in this presentation. And we simply need to schedule a meeting with you, and we can talk to your individual needs and assist you in understanding what that vision may even look like in the first place, because every single organization has its own uniqueness to it. And that's what's so amazing about Salesforce, and the fantastic resources and team that you have here today can help tailor that to you and your business. So thank you very much for your time today. And I wanted to open it up for any questions. I'm going to go ahead and unshare my screen here. I'm going to allow some of the folks, attendees, to speak. If you want, feel free to come off of mute or submit a question via the chat, and we'll give it a couple of minutes. And if there's no questions too, that's all okay. And we're happy to communicate with you offline and answer those as they come up. So Leah, thanks so much for submitting the question. Leah's question is, we are a single site nonprofit like Planned Community. Have you worked with communities like us? So frankly, the senior living industry is definitely one that is currently adopting technology, some for the first time, such as a single source of truth like Salesforce. And believe it or not, the teams here on the call, like CRM Science and Dan and the teams here at Salesforce, can absolutely approach your challenges just like we would with some of the larger, more enterprise type organizations with that crawl, walk, run approach. There's never going to be necessarily, let's do it all at once. Obviously, different organizations are of different employee sizes and have different capacities for beds and different services that they provide and the different partnerships that they have. So we would engage with you on an as needed basis and how to address those challenges. But Royce, feel free to chat to some of the points around addressing a smaller nonprofit's needs. But Leah, if you have any other follow-up questions, happy to answer that here or offline as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I just said thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get you off there. Yeah, that's a great question. The Salesforce platform, is great because it can scale. It can scale both ways, right? It can serve the really small need as well as the really large need. And with CRM Science, we work with nonprofits of all sizes, and we have projects like accelerators to help people get on Salesforce very quickly, very easily. And one of the main things that we talk about is enablement, because Salesforce is really designed so that the line of business user, the people that are in the business doing the work, can make those reports. They can do analytics. They can build automation, on their own without necessarily having to have a robust IT staff. So, that's where we as consultants come in and say, hey, here's a couple of things that you really need to know. And, in our projects, we do training so that people know the resources that they have. And then on the Salesforce side, they offer success packages as well. So you can get premium support from Salesforce as well, so that when you have those questions, you can go to experts and get your answers dialed in and answered in a timely fashion. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and it's really great because you can go in just about any direction you want to go, and ourselves and Salesforce will support you in that and train you in that.
Okay. Is Salesforce the senior living platform program only run through the retirement homes software, or is it two separate entities? They're their own CRM with a Salesforce platform, or is this retirement homes like your senior living package?
So are you asking if there's something besides Salesforce for the senior living?
Yes, I thought I had saw on one of your earlier slides that there was the retirement home software.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we were investigating CRMs to change over from Matrix Care about 7 years ago, I had really loved Salesforce for my previous company. We had just rolled it out, but I didn't really see a lot of options for us at that time. But retirement homes, I can't remember their full name, retirement homes was the Salesforce platform CRM. And so I'm just wondering, is that the same? Is that what Salesforce offers for us?
Yeah, so to speak to the AXE use case, so we took Salesforce and we built that out for them. So we customized the Salesforce platform, and they have some internal tooling as well.
Right.
So that's where we talked about integrations with like their EHR and, even their own home cooked databases. And to Deanne's point, Salesforce makes it really easy to integrate those things and connect it, because a lot of times people have multiple systems. But
Okay.
in that use case, it is Salesforce. And then, we built the platform for Axe on top of that.
Got it. Okay. Does a retirement community like mine, do we need to work with a consultant that specializes in Salesforce, or do we work directly with you?
It's a great question. So the best analogy we always like to talk about is Salesforce is essentially like the Home Depot. We provide the materials, the pipes, various different items to create what your custom instance, is what we call it, would look like. And someone like Royce at CRM Science have that expertise, having worked with Axe Retirement and other senior living organizations to help take time to listen to you, have those discovery and strategic sessions to be the contractor and use those materials to build something that works for your business and then you could scale with over time.
Okay, great. So we are in the process of our budget season right now, where I'm going to be scheduling demos with other CRMs this summer, because we have to submit all of our budget requests and capital expenses and wish lists by the end of August. So I would love to, I don't know who I need to do that with, but would love maybe offline to have a conversation about how to set that demo up.
We could absolutely help you out with that, and it'd be a pleasure to work with you. So happy to connect with the right individuals and folks and to get you all in the right room, and we're happy to have that conversation. And I think the greatest thing too is, you mentioned that you're a smaller nonprofit community. Like I mentioned at the front of the webinar, we do grant 10 donated users to your organization in perpetuity. So you get 10 free users forever as a 501c3. And then as you build on top of that, that would be extra and separate, but that's what ultimately, Deanne having really great business sense attracted her to want to leverage Salesforce initially, because that grant is pretty significant. So
okay, that's great. Sadly I missed the first 15 minutes, but
well, there you go.
and just to jump in, Leah, so I've worked for both for-profit and currently nonprofit. So I understand totally where you're coming from, because the previous for-profit was 140 communities. We worked with migrating data from Matrix Care, Sherpa, Enquire, all the senior living solutions. And then I came to nonprofit, and our nonprofit, when I started a year ago, we only had 13 communities. So if you ever want to pick my brain on best practices or how we did it, I'm happy to share all of that. Just not my prospect list, but definitely can share that. And I think the biggest thing you're going to find, like Ross mentioned, is the 10 free licenses. That is huge for nonprofit, but also for-profit versus nonprofit Salesforce licenses, you do get that deep discount. And that is, it's coming in cheaper than some of those other vendors that you kind of mentioned that are senior living specific.
Yeah, I worked for HCR Manor Care before I came here, and we had just corporate had unrolled the Salesforce platform. That was 10 years ago before I came here. And as a salesperson, I really loved it. But now as a director, I really need something that, as a salesperson / director, I need something where it's easy to pull an event list, that it is easy to pull reports. I know the data is only as good as the people that are inputting it, but I just need something that's a little more simplified. And my salesperson doesn't come to me every other day saying, why can't I do this? Or why does it do this?
I totally understand what you're
Might be
saying.
User
Yes.
generated as well, but it's time for us to do something different. And I keep going back to Salesforce in my mind, because 10 years ago, I thought it was amazing, and I'm sure it's only better now, but I need to do my due diligence, because we are small. We are independent living, assisted living, nursing, and memory care, but we don't have a corporate that helps us with things.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to
corporate.
reach out to you anytime
Yeah.
we could chat about best practices and how it works and stuff. So yes,
Great. I dropped my email address there, so.
I'll ping you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Leah, for the questions. We appreciate the engagement, and we'll absolutely follow up with you and address your business needs there. Thank you, everyone on the call today, Deanne, Dan, Royce, and Steve. It's been a pleasure working with everyone, and thank you all for your time for those that are watching right now. Hope you all have a great day. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.